My hands trembled as I watched Tommy toss the carefully wrapped package onto the growing pile of discarded gifts. 16 years old, slouched in his designer chair, he didn't even try to hide his disdain. "Another one from Grandma," he announced to the room of guests, rolling his eyes. "Probably another sweater or some ancient book." The laughter that followed cut deeper than any knife. My daughter Sarah, perched on the leather sofa I'd bought them last Christmas, didn't even attempt to correct him. Instead, she shared a knowing look with her husband, Mark, both of them smirking as if they were in on some private joke. I sat there, my heart heavy in my chest, remembering the hours I'd spent selecting the limited edition gaming console he'd been begging his parents for. The one they'd refused to buy, claiming it was too expensive. The same parents who were now driving matching luxury cars and planning their third vacation this year. "At least open it, Tommy," I suggested softly, my voice barely carrying over the chatter of the party guests. He sighed dramatically, as if I'd asked him to solve world hunger. "What's the point? Your presents are always so basic." He emphasized the last word, drawing another round of snickers from his friends. Sarah finally spoke up, but not to defend me. "Mom, you really don't need to keep buying him things. You should save your pension money." Pension money. I almost laughed. They had no idea that the comfortable life they were living, the house, the cars, their business, existed because of my quiet investments and carefully placed loans. I'd spent years building my fortune in silence, helping them maintain their illusion of success while they treated me like a burden. "Actually," Mark chimed in, swirling his expensive whiskey, "bought with money from my latest business loan to him, we've been meaning to talk to you about the monthly dinners. Tommy's getting busier with activities and, well, I knew what was coming. I'd seen the signs for months now. The forgotten phone calls, the canceled visits, the way they'd moved my photos to the hallway where guests wouldn't see them. It's just not convenient anymore." Sarah finished for him, not meeting my eyes. "Maybe we can do holidays instead. When we're not traveling, of course." Tommy had already turned back to his phone, my gift pushed aside like yesterday's trash. His friends were gathered around him, showing off their latest purchases, their parents' credit cards probably still warm from use. I stood up slowly, smoothing down my simple dress, the same one I'd worn to 3 family functions because they expected me to look the part of the struggling grandmother. "Of course," I said quietly, "I understand." But for the first time in 16 years, I really did understand. I understood that I created this situation by enabling their behavior, by hiding my success to protect their pride, by letting them believe they'd built everything on their own. I walked to my car, a modest sedan they often mocked, and pulled out my phone. One call. That's all it would take to start undoing years of carefully constructed support. "James," I spoke to my financial advisor. "It's time. Start the process we discussed." "All of it?" he asked, knowing what this meant. "Every last bit," I confirmed, "and James, make sure the timing is perfect." I ended the call and looked back at the house. My house, technically, though they didn't know that. Through the window, I could see them laughing, probably already forgetting I'd left. Tommy was showing off something on his phone. Sarah and Mark were bragging to other parents about their upcoming cruise. Let them laugh. In exactly 30 days, when their credit cards stopped working, when their loans came due, when the truth about who owned their lifestyle became clear, the laughter would stop. I started my car, thinking about the unopened gift. Inside wasn't just a gaming console. There was also a letter, explaining everything, my real wealth, my companies, my properties. A letter offering Tommy a chance to learn the family business, to understand the value of hard work and respect. But he'd never read it. None of them would until it was too late. As I drove away, my phone started buzzing. Sarah, probably remembering she needed something from me. I turned it off, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the truth. And sometimes the truth comes with a price tag they never expected to pay. The next morning, I walked into my real office, the one they'd never seen, on the top floor of the city's premier business district. My secretary handed me a stack of papers. "Everything's ready," she said. "Are you sure about this?" I looked at the documents that would unravel their carefully constructed facade. Property transfers, loan recalls, trust fund dissolutions. 16 years of enabling their disrespect was about to end. "Yes," I replied, picking up my pen. "It's time they learned what basic really means." The first cracks appeared exactly 7 days later. I was sitting in my office, reviewing quarterly reports, when Mark's number flashed across my screen. I've been expecting this call. Martha. His voice had lost its usual condescending tone, replaced by barely contained panic. There must be some mistake. The business account. It's frozen. I took my time responding, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Oh, that's concerning. I have suppliers waiting for payment. The bank says all our loans are being recalled. They mentioned your name. The confusion in his voice almost made me smile. Almost. How strange, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Have you tried calling your other investors? He laughed nervously. What other investors? We built this business ourselves. You know that. Did I? I glanced at the documents spread across my desk, proof of every silent investment, every strategic loan, every carefully placed connection that had built their self-made success. Mark, I'm rather busy right now. Perhaps you should discuss this with Sarah. She's not doing well, he admitted. The credit cards stopped working. All of them. Tommy's private school called about unpaid fees and the house payment. I cut him off. I'm sure you'll figure something out. After all, my advice is usually too basic for your tastes. The line went quiet. Then Martha, if you know something. Goodbye, Mark. Give my love to Tommy, though I suppose he's too busy to hear it. I hung up, turning to the wall of windows overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, my daughter was probably starting to realize that her perfect life had been built on a foundation she'd never bothered to understand. The next few days brought a flood of calls and messages, each more desperate than the last. Sarah's voicemails went from demanding to pleading. Tommy, who'd never called me before, suddenly remembered my number. Grandma, his message said, Mom's crying all the time. Dad's locked himself in his office. Please call us back. But I didn't. Instead, I watched through my network of financial advisors as reality crashed down around them. The country club membership suspended. The private school requesting immediate payment. The luxury cars receiving notices of repossession. 10 days after Mark's first call, Sarah showed up at my modest apartment, the only address they had for me. She looked different. No designer clothes, no perfectly styled hair. Just a woman finally facing the truth. Mom, she whispered when I opened the door. What's happening? I let her in, noting how her eyes darted around my simple living room, probably wondering how her poor mother had managed to destroy their life. Would you like some tea? I asked as if this were any other visit. Tea? Mom, we're losing everything. The house, the cars, Tommy's school. Everything's falling apart, and somehow it all leads back to you. I settled into my chair, the same one they'd mocked as thrift store chick last Christmas. Interesting choice of words. Your house. Your cars. Are you sure about that? Her face paled. What are you talking about? Did you ever wonder, I said quietly, how you got approved for that house with Mark's credit history? How your business survived its first 3 years when the market was down? Who really paid for Tommy's first private school? But you're just, she gestured helplessly at my apartment, my simple clothes. Just what? Basic? A burden? A grandmother who should save her pension money. Tears started rolling down her face. We didn't mean. Yes, you did, I corrected her. You meant every laugh, every dismissal, every canceled dinner. You meant it when you taught Tommy that I wasn't worth his time or respect. Is this revenge? She whispered. I shook my head. No, Sarah. This is a lesson, one that's 16 years overdue. She left my apartment looking smaller somehow, clutching her non-designer handbag like a shield. As the door closed behind her, I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. Is everything prepared for phase 2? I asked my lawyer. Yes, he confirmed. The trust fund documents will be delivered tomorrow. Are you sure about the conditions? I thought about Tommy's unopened gift still sitting in their house somewhere. Absolutely. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the most important ones. Phase 2 would show them exactly who they'd been mocking all these years. But more importantly, it would show them who they really were. The real question was, were they ready to learn? When the trust fund documents arrived at their house, they finally understood the full scope of what they'd lost. I watched through my office cameras as Mark and Sarah sat in my real workplace, faces ashen as my lawyer explained the situation. Mrs. Wilson isn't just your mother, he stated clinically. She's the founder of Wilson Enterprises, controlling assets worth over $300 million across the real estate, technology, and retail sectors. Sarah's hand trembled as she held up the papers. All this time, your lifestyle, my lawyer continued, was maintained through a series of trusts and loans, all contingent on annual renewal. Mrs. Wilson has chosen not to renew them. Mark, always quick to spot an angle, leaned forward. But surely we can discuss this. We're family. Family? I finally spoke, stepping out from the adjoining room. They jumped at my appearance, so different from what they were used to. No simple dress today. Instead, I wore what I usually did in this office, a tailored suit that cost more than their monthly mortgage. Mom, Sarah started. The time for discussion was 16 years ago. I cut in. Before you taught Tommy that kindness was weakness. Before you decided I was beneath you. We can change, Mark promised quickly. Tommy will apologize. We'll do weekly dinners, holidays, anything you want. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That's not how this works anymore. The trust fund has new conditions. My lawyer distributed another set of documents. Tommy's education will be fully funded, but only at a public school. Your business will receive a basic operating loan. Enough to keep it running, but not for luxuries. The house can be maintained, but downsized. These conditions, I continued, are non-negotiable. But there's one more thing. I pulled out Tommy's unopened birthday gift, now slightly dusty. Inside this box isn't just a gaming console. It's an opportunity, a letter explaining everything, offering Tommy an internship, a chance to learn the business from the ground up, to earn what you've taken for granted. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. He never opened it. No, he didn't. Just like you never opened your eyes to what you were teaching him, about money, about respect, about family. I stood smoothing my suit. You have 24 hours to accept these terms. After that, everything goes to charity. And if we accept, Mark asked, then you start over. You learn the value of what you had. Most importantly, Tommy learns that actions have consequences. They left my office looking shell-shocked, clutching the documents that outlined their new reality. As the door closed behind them, my secretary entered. Their car is being repossessed in the parking lot, she informed me. Should I call them a cab? I thought about it. No, the bus stop is 3 blocks away. It's time they learned how the other half lives. That evening, sitting in my real home, a penthouse overlooking the city, I received a text from Tommy, a photo of an opened birthday gift, and 4 words that gave me the first glimmer of hope. I'm sorry, Grandma. Teach me. Sometimes the hardest lessons come wrapped in the most expensive packages, but true value isn't measured in dollar signs. It's measured in understanding, in growth, in the willingness to learn from our mistakes. As I watched the sun set over the city I quietly built while they mocked my simple life, I realized that this ending was also a beginning, not just for them, but for me too. Because sometimes the greatest power isn't in hiding who you are, but in finally letting people see the truth, even if that truth comes with a price tag they never expected to pay. And Tommy, well, he starts his internship next week, in the mailroom, just like I did 40 years ago. Sometimes the longest journeys begin with returning an unopened gift.